Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. Last week, BC Premier David Eby announced that the province plans to move to permanent daylight saving time. No more clock changes. Will this mean better sleep? Or will the darker winter mornings leave us sluggish for months at a time? Here to discuss, the founder of WikiSleep, a BC-based app that uses cognitive diversion to beat your insomnia and anxiety, Adrien Sala. Adrien, hello.
Hello.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I have to admit, I've had a bad night's sleep.
Okay.
I'm not feeling 100%. I feel like all of us kind of know that feeling of being a little sluggish after a bad night's sleep. But if you're a chronic bad sleeper, what are the associated health risks?
Yeah, and I think it's important that you point that out. Like a couple bad nights of sleep isn't going to have a big impact.
I'm not dying.
You're not dying. You're not going to get, a disease or anything like that. But chronic poor sleep actually has a very significant impact. There's risks of elevated heart disease, diabetes, anxiety, depression, and in the long term, cognitive decline.
Wow. So it's not just a matter of you feeling sluggish all the time. It has like real health impacts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we learn more and more about sleep, people are starting to look at it as that sort of third pillar of foundational health. You've got diet, exercise, and then sleep on top because it does have such an impact.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Now, when you heard BC Premier David Eby's announcement that we're not changing the clocks anymore, we're going to stick to permanent daylight saving time, what was your reaction from a sleep perspective?
Well, I think first I was pretty excited about it. This going back and forth kind of a thing really, I don't think is beneficial to anybody. It's super disruptive, especially if you have kids or even pets, that sort of thing. Their internal clocks are pretty set. And so disrupting that has an impact. And so knowing that we're not going to be changing anymore, I was quite happy about. But I think I would have been happier had we stayed in standard time, which means more sunlight in the morning, less in the afternoon.
In the winters.
In the winters. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I've heard some sleep experts also kind of bring up this point that in daylight saving time, we get less sleep up to, 30 minutes a day on average.
Right.
Why is that? And why should it matter? Wouldn't our bodies just automatically adjust?
Yeah. I think there's external factors. There's like the way that, the time shifts around what time you go to work and all those types of things as well. But I think it has to do a lot with like daylight sun exposure,
Okay.
I would say that the biggest thing about it is like the thing that one of the best things you can do for yourself for sleep is get up and get daylight into your face early, right?
Okay.
And so if you're not doing that because you're saving time or you're going to the different direction of that, it may be having an impact on you for sure.
Because I wake up before 5 o'clock every day anyways, usually just to go to the gym or get some other things done before I go to work.
Yeah.
I feel like that's okay. I'm not really getting daylight, right?
Yeah.
But I still am waking up on a routine basis at that time.
Yeah. And I think that's a big piece of sleep health overall is like a consistent schedule, right?
Okay.
Obviously the daylight thing is something that people are kind of like focusing on, but I would say it's more like it's super important, but very few of us are actually getting up, going outside, staring at the sky for a while, and then coming back and carrying on with your day. It's more incidental, right? Like you just happen to do it. So it's more about sort of behavioral things that you're doing to get your sleep hygiene as good as it can be, and sort of removing things from it that like are disruptive, screens, not getting exercise, poor diet, that sort of stuff, stress, anxiety, those types of things. So the daylight thing for sure is important, but it's more of like an overall kind of like sleep hygiene thing that you should be focusing on.
Now, when it comes to shifting to one of these permanent times, daylight saving time, Richard Nixon tried this in 1974.
Yeah.
Russia tried this in 2011, and then they all kind of backtracked.
Yeah.
The experiment didn't work. Why do you think it will be successful here, or do you have doubts that it will be successful?
Yeah, I mean, time will tell, right? Like, I think one of the things with the daylight savings back and forth, there is a bit of a nostalgic feeling. Like, it's been around for 100 years. So unless you're over 100 years, you've done it every year of your life, twice a year, right? So there is that kind of feeling for it. With the Nixon in 74, that was more related to an energy crisis, right? And so the Russian thing, I'm not totally sure about it. I think there was some geopolitical stuff connected to it. But I think it's going to stick largely because we're learning more about sleep and how disruptive those changes can be, right? Back in 74, we didn't really have the same focus on sleep and understanding how much of an impact it can actually have. So my view is that it will likely stick because people will realize that kind of disruption is actually really detrimental to your sleep health. My preference, if anything was going to happen, I might bet that we switch to standard time.
Okay,
time,
yeah. I mean, it's not too late.
It's not too late. Yeah, of course. Like they just did it. You can switch back and forth, it seems like. But,
interesting. Now, talking about sleep just in general, if I'm having a difficult time sleeping as it is.
Yeah.
Forget the time change.
Sure.
But just as it is, I have a tough time going to sleep.
Yeah.
What are the first things that I should be looking at?
I mean, there's a bunch of different things that you can do to help yourself sleep. I think, there's always the try to limit screens before you go to bed. Sleep hygiene starts earlier in the day. So if you're...
What is it about screens that makes it so bad before bed?
There is a bit of a misconception about that. I think people think it's blue light. There was one study that did it that was really kind of not really that vetted, and people glommed onto that. I think it's too much stimulation. So from my view, most sleep issues start in your head. Right? Your brain is busy. And so if you're constantly triggering it over and over again through doom scrolling or whatever it is, your brain tends to go in that direction, and it's really difficult to sleep. And so when you lie down at night, your brain just starts to spin on those types of things. And so there's a bunch of different approaches. Breathing is one. Cognitive diversion is another one, which I think is really important. What that does is it sort of takes your brain away from whatever is spinning around inside of your head into a place that's safe and soothing, so your body can go, oh, I'm relaxed, I'm no longer in danger, I can kind of let go.
It's like
and fall asleep.
De-stimulating.
Basically,
Okay.
yeah. So those are things you can do. Sleeping in a cold room usually helps. There's like take a bath a couple hours before sleep. Like don't spike your temperature too much. There's all sorts of stuff. But I would just say like removing as much stimulation as you can and getting focused. Like this is why people read books. Like you can read a book, you can't have two thoughts in your head at once. And so if you're stressed and anxious and thinking about all that stuff, it's really difficult to sleep. But if you fall into a story, it's really easy to go to sleep.
Because I was just going to ask, you have an app,
yes,
which presumably has blue light through the phone.
Yeah.
And then you just said no screen time. So how do I balance the two if I want to try that
circle? Well, I mean, with our app, it's actually like it's storytelling. So we make interesting stories designed like meditations, and so you can set up a playlist and pick your episodes and do what you want, and you press play and then you put it down. And you just listen to the story.
Got it.
Right. Okay. So you're not actually interacting with it while it's going. But yeah, I get that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fascinating discussion on sleep. I appreciate your time and I appreciate your insights into this new sleep schedule that we're all going to be on permanently thanks to the Premier. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Folks, if you're having a tough time sleeping on daylight saving time or standard time or whatever time, check out his app, WikiSleep, to beat insomnia, anxiety, or whatever it is that is keeping you up at night. He is Adrien Sala. Now, after a little business, more and more Canadians are hoping to change their health with GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Mounjaro. But are these drugs also changing consumer habits? We'll talk about it up next.